Chapter 39:25. Master. No, Palace Master. I can cripple my own martial arts, but I must leave with the Buddha lotus seed. Nye Yunsheng is poisoned and is waiting for the Buddha lotus seed to save his life. Ruan Qianling said this with some expectation, obviously not giving up. Tanghua almost burst out laughing. This Ruan Qianling was really naive and knew how to use the Falling Flower Palace's resources to save a wild man outside. Is the Buddha lotus seed yours? Xiaomei couldn't stand it anymore. The Buddha lotus seed is the most precious treasure of the Falling Flower Palace. Ruan Qianling, you've gone too far. You've been blessed by the Falling Flower Palace since you were young, but now you're wasting your efforts by repeatedly stealing the Falling Flower Palace's treasures. If it weren't for the Palace Master's mercy, you would have lost your life. You actually want to use the Buddha lotus seed to save a wild man outside. You don't have the right to take the Buddha lotus seed away. Quickly cripple your own martial arts and leave. The Falling Flower Palace doesn't welcome you. Chun Mei's face was sullen. She suddenly felt that Ruan Qianling was really shameless. Ruan Qianling, as the young palace master of the Falling Flower Palace, not only did you not do anything to protect the Falling Flower Palace, but you also stole the Falling Flower Palace's treasures. Because of you and that stinky man, the Falling Flower Palace has been repeatedly in the eye of the storm, causing people in the martial arts world to curse and ruin the Falling Flower Palace's reputation. Everything here is enough to take your life. The Palace Master only allowed you to cripple your own martial arts and leave the Falling Flower Palace because of your past relationship. Don't push your luck. The protectors of the Falling Flower Palace were all holding their breaths. After scolding Ruan Qianling, they felt much better. Palace Master, do you really want to be so heartless? Ruan Qianling looked at Tanghua with a sad face. People who didn't know would really think that she, the Palace Master of the Falling Flower Palace, had done something excessive. Ruan Qianling's moral abduction was also a set of tricks. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to do it myself? Tanghua's words made Ruan Qianling finally certain that there was no room for negotiation. She pursed her lips and didn't know what to do for a moment. Of course, she didn't want to cripple her own martial arts. She didn't expect that Tanghua would be so heartless. She didn't expect the other party to not be moved at all. What should she do? Moreover, none of these protectors who were usually kind to her spoke up for her. Seeing that Ruan Qianling still hadn't made up her mind, Tanghua was a little impatient. Ruan Qianling's personality was really wishy-washy. Ruan Qianling might as well destroy her own martial arts. She couldn't stand the way he wanted to get all the benefits. When the air fell silent, Tanghua instantly moved to Ruan Qianling's side. Her palm landed on the top of Ruan Qianling's head. Ruan Qianling had a look of disbelief on her face as she began to cripple her martial arts. Not long after, all of Ruan Qianling's martial arts were abolished by Tanghua. Ruan Qianling, who had been abolished, was very weak and limp on the ground. The box in her hand had been taken by Tanghua. After Tanghua ordered people to send the box into the treasury, she glanced at the pale-faced Ruan Qianling condescendingly. All disciples, listen up. From today onwards, Ruan Qianling is no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. Arrange for people to send her down the mountain. At the same time, announce this matter to the martial arts world. Of course, the matter of the Falling Flower Palace expelling a disciple had to be made clear so that everyone would know about it. Ruan Qianling was dumbfounded. The pain of having her martial arts abolished made her temporarily unable to speak. When she was held by two disciples, her eyes were on Tanghua. Unfortunately, Tanghua didn't even look at her, which made her feel very aggrieved. Well, from now on, I'm no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. Chapter 39:26. Ruan Qianling shouted and broke free from the disciples who were holding her. I'll go by myself. You don't have to worry about me. Seeing that Ruan Qianling was about to fall, the disciples wanted to support her. Tanghua said, don't worry about her. Let her go by herself. Oh, who did she think she was? Who would care about a traitor? She would be happy to drive the traitor out. Tanghua's words had absolute authority among the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. The disciples really did not help Ruan Qianling and let her fall to the ground awkwardly. Ruan Qianling ate the dust on the ground and felt very wronged. Tangwa looked at Ruan Qinling pitifully leaving and sneered in her heart. She had been in Falling Flower Palace for too long and was used to the care of Falling Flower Palace. Now that Ruan Qinling was no longer a member of Falling Flower Palace, how many people in Jianghu would care about her life and death? Did she really think that without Falling Flower Palace to rely on, Jianghu would be as comfortable as before? Naive. Ruan Qinling is no longer a disciple of Falling Flower Palace. If you encounter a conflict in the past, you don't have to be merciful. Of course, if you encounter other things, don't meddle in other people's business. She was afraid that the people of Falling Flower Palace would care about their old friendship and couldn't help helping Ruan Qinling when they saw her suffer. Yes, Palace Master. Remember, she is a traitor. Tangwa felt that the warning was not enough and repeatedly emphasized to the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. If she first stole the Xian Pulse book and then wanted to steal the Buddha Lotus seed, if we didn't find out, she may have designs on the Divine Hall in the future. After this series of words, the disciples of Falling Flower Palace were even more indignant and felt that the punishment for Ruan Qinling was too small. If she were an ordinary disciple, she would have been executed. She was a traitor. Fortunately, the palace master was wise. Otherwise, the treasures of Falling Flower Palace would have been stolen by this traitor. Tangwa was finally satisfied with the expressions of the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. She did not deliberately correct the disciples of Falling Flower Palace that they hated men. In this world, there were indeed more scumbags. There were not many good men in Jianghu. They were all scumbags. In any case, this was an ancient world. Once a woman got married, most of the women of Jianghu had to take care of her husband. She had so many beautiful ladies in the Falling Flower Palace, so why should she give up her carefree days for a scumbag? She should just let the ladies in the Falling Flower Palace be beautiful by themselves. She didn't emphasize how bad the men in this world were, nor would she explain to them that there were good men in this world. She just needed to let them live naturally. Ruan Qinling was very weak now. It took a lot of effort to reach the foot of the mountain. What she didn't know was that after she went down the mountain, Tangwa went to change the Chimanduanjia at the foot of the mountain. In other words, Ruan Qinling could no longer enter the Falling Flower Palace unless she allowed it. As for the location of the secret passage at the back of the mountain, she did not do anything. It was not important whether Ruan Qinling would return to that place in the future. To meet. She just had to wait for the Buddha Lotus seed to save Nye Yunqing's life. Ruan Qinling took out something from her bosom. Looking at the small bundle wrapped in brocade, she had no intention of opening it. When she received the box containing the Buddha Lotus seed, she was afraid that something unexpected would happen and put the thing inside into her bosom. Chapter 39:27. Now, she still had no intention of opening it. She was afraid that it would lose its efficacy. The reason why she didn't doubt it was because of the unique lotus fragrance coming from the brocade. She had never smelled such a smell before. What else could it be other than Buddha's lotus seed? Ruan Qinling was afraid that there would be an accident and hurriedly put the brocade close to her body. Today's matter still made her very sullen. Her martial arts were abolished, and she was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. It was one disaster after another for her. She only hoped that she could save Nye Yunqing after giving up so much. As long as Nye Yunqing was alive, her sacrifices were worth it. As for the Falling Flower Palace, it was fine if she couldn't go back. There were so many rules in the Falling Flower Palace. It was good that she had regained her freedom. Otherwise, if she and Nye Yunqing wanted to be together in the future, the Falling Flower Palace would stop them at all costs. Ruan Qinling, who had figured it out, didn't feel so bad anymore. At this time, the Wulin side also quickly learned that the young master of the Falling Flower Palace, Ruan Qinling, was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. This news indeed attracted the attention of many people who all inquired about what was going on. Tangwa didn't hide it and let people announce the whole thing. Not long after, the people of Jianghu knew the details. It turned out that Ruan Qinling intended to steal the treasures of the Falling Flower Palace in order to save Nye Yunqing, but she was discovered. In this way, wasn't it tantamount to betraying the sect? Then she brought it on herself? Who said no? It seems that the Falling Flower Palace still cares about friendship. If this matter was in other sects, it wouldn't be a small matter. A light punishment would be abolition of martial arts and expulsion from the sect. A heavy punishment would be death. In fact, these Jianghu people all felt that Ruan Xinling was very stupid. Even if the Falling Flower Palace was hated by everyone in Jianghu, Ruan Xinling could go smoothly in Jianghu because she had such a big backer. A few years ago, she did all kinds of things in Jianghu and didn't attract the top masters of other sects to kill her because of her identity as the young master of the Falling Flower Palace. Now that Ruan Xinling had been expelled from the Luohua Palace, her background was gone, and her martial arts were gone. In the past, there were many people who had suffered losses at Ruan Xinling's hands. However, all of them just let it be. This was the demoness of the Fallen Flower Palace. Her status was important. If they continued to provoke her, they would not have a good ending. Now that Ruan Xinling had lost her martial arts and Ye Yunsheng had been kicked out of Drifting Cloud Villa, if Ruan Xinling caused any more trouble, they really didn't want to be polite anymore. Chapter 39-28. He had already practiced one of the treasures, the Xin Pulse Book, so he believed in the existence of the Buddha lotus seed even more. Thinking about how his situation was getting worse, even if he noticed that Ruan Xinling's situation wasn't good, he couldn't help but look forward to it. I had a falling out with the Falling Flower Palace. Ruan Xinling didn't plan to hide it. She had been wronged in the Falling Flower Palace and had been holding it in. Now that she saw Nye Yunsheng, she couldn't hold it in and wanted to pour it all out. Her eyes instantly turned red and she was about to cry. Nye Yunsheng saw this and his heart ached. He couldn't help but hug her shoulder to comfort her. Ling is it because of me? For me, you were made difficult by the people of the Falling Flower Palace and they even injured you? My original intention was to go back and get the Buddha lotus seed. Regardless of whether the Buddha lotus seed has the effect of detoxification, it is said that it can bring the dead back to life. Unfortunately, it was discovered in the end. Palace Master wanted me to choose a path. Cripple my cultivation and leave or stay in the Falling Flower Palace forever and never care about you. I chose to cripple my cultivation and leave. Now, the entire martial arts world probably knows that I was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. Nye Yunsheng's heart ached when he heard this. He guessed that she didn't get the Buddha lotus seed. Ruan Xinling's sacrifice was too great. Even if she was a little disappointed, he couldn't blame her. There were so many experts in the Falling Flower Palace. Ling was willing to do this for him. It was already very risky. Ling let nature take its course. If you didn't get it, then forget it. Ruan Xinling shook her head, a mysterious smile on her pale face. She took something out from her bosom. Look, what is this? Under Nye Yunsheng's puzzled gaze, she said, when I found the Buddha lotus seed, I was afraid that there would be an accident if I put it in a box. So, I swapped the thing inside and hid it close to my body. Palace Master only snatched the box back. I brought the real Buddha lotus seed back. She looked as if she had done a very great thing. Facing Nye Yunsheng's shock, Ruan Xinling slowly opened the brocade. Linger, it's been hard on you. You've done too much for me. I just didn't want to watch you die, Ruan Xinling said. Linger, let me protect you from now on. Even if you are not in the Falling Flower Palace and do not have any martial arts, there is no need to worry about anyone harming you. Ruan Xinling heard what she liked and felt that all the sacrifices were worth it. The people of the Falling Flower Palace always said that men were heartless, but that was because they only saw heartless men. They would always have a prejudiced mentality. It was impossible for them to meet a good man like Nye Yunsheng. Chapter 39-29. Nye Yunsheng picked up the small lotus seed that didn't look like the legendary Buddha's lotus seed and put it in his mouth with some hesitation. Ruan Xinling looked at him very nervously. Nye Yunsheng frowned and finally swallowed the lotus seed. Ruan Xinling saw that he was having difficulty swallowing and hurriedly poured a glass of water for him. After drinking the glass of water, Ruan Xinling asked hopefully, "How is it?" She grabbed Nye Yunsheng's arm and stared unblinkingly at the place where the poison had spread. She hoped that the Buddha's lotus seed would work and expel the poison from Nye Yunsheng's body as soon as possible. I don't feel anything special. It just doesn't taste very good. Nye Yunsheng frowned and stretched his eyes. What he didn't say was that there was a faint rotten smell. Therefore, he swallowed it. Although the lotus fragrance outside was very special, it couldn't hide the rotten smell. After a cup of tea's time, Nie Yunxing didn't change at all. Is there any change in your body? Ruan Xinling asked. Nie Yunxing shook his head. He didn't feel any change at all. Ruan Xinling's face turned ugly. Even if the Buddha's lotus seed couldn't detoxify the poison, it was impossible for there to be no change at all. The legendary Buddha's lotus seed could not only save lives, but also improve one's skills. Is there any change in your internal energy? It is said that taking the Buddha's lotus seed can improve one's skills. Ruan Xinling asked expectantly. Nie Yunxing's face darkened, and he shook his head. There is no change. Could it be that this Buddha's lotus seed is fake? Ruan Xinling's face turned pale. Was it replaced by someone? No, the people of Falling Flower Palace shouldn't know that I plan to steal the Buddha's lotus seed. When I opened the treasury, there was a thick layer of dust on the lock. I remember clearly that no one has entered the treasury for a long time. If it was really replaced, why would the palace lord be so impatient to snatch the box back? Perhaps the palace lord of Falling Flower Palace didn't know that the Buddha's lotus seed was stolen. The lotus seed just now should be an ordinary lotus seed that was replaced by someone else. Nie Yunxing analyzed. You were one step too late. The two analyzed and felt that this was the truth of the matter and fell into silence. Let's go to the western regions. Ruan Xinling suddenly said, this poison started in the western regions. If we go there, we might be able to find a way to detoxify it. Ling I'm afraid that with the speed at which this poison is spreading, I won't be able to save myself before it reaches the western regions, Nie Yunxing said, somewhat resigned to his fate. How about we just forget about it? How can we let it go? Let's go to the Elixir Valley again. We can't give up until the very end. Ruan Xinling was unwilling to give up. Chapter 39:30. Unlike Lu Qijian, who only had eyes for the sword. Every day, he only knew how to compete with the sword. Sometimes, he would say something that made her heart ache. Since she had given up on Lu Qijian, she only felt that her heart was smooth and the air was fresh. She felt comfortable everywhere. This kind of happy life where she wasn't angered was really comfortable. Fuck Lu Qijian, fuck his sword. She was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world. Why would she have to make life difficult for a rotten wood? Wasn't that just looking for trouble? Luo Lisin's generosity touched Nie Yunxing. Ruan Xinling also reluctantly thanked her. She was still as arrogant as before. Now that you two are in trouble, I'll go with you. Take the Luo family's carriage. Those who don't know their place won't dare to provoke us. If it were in the past, Ruan Xinling wouldn't have cared. Nie Yunxing was poisoned. Every time he used his internal energy, the poison would spread faster. Her martial arts had just been destroyed. If she wanted to return to her peak state, it would take a long time. If the two of them went to the Spirit Potion Valley together, it would be dangerous on the way. With the Luo family's carriage escorting them, no one came to trouble them. Soon, they arrived outside the Spirit Potion Valley. They took out 2 old ginsengs to meet the people of the Spirit Potion Valley. They were full of expectations. However, when the people who came to meet them heard that it was just 2 old ginsengs, they rejected them. Not even 1,000-year-old ginsengs, Luo Lisin sighed. It seems that it's not easy to move the Spirit Potion Valley. It must be the most precious treasure in the world to attract their attention. If we can find a treasure map, perhaps we can succeed. Luo Lisin still didn't remind them about the treasure map. Lu Qijian might have it. Her intuition told her that she'd better not tell them about it. Not to mention that Lu Qijian wasn't someone to be trifled with. The Tang woman next to him was the same. Luo Lisin didn't plan to tell them the truth about Di Weiping, the one who had harmed Nie Yunxing. She'd better keep it to herself. Her Luo family was a big family with many people. Even if she liked to play around in the pugilistic world, it would be fine if she was involved too deeply. It would be detrimental to the Luo family. Her father had once told her that even if she knew something, as long as it didn't implicate her, it was best to pretend that she didn't know, lest she got into trouble. Other than the news that might be detrimental to the Luo family, she would not refuse anything that could help Nie Yunxing financially and physically. Treasure map? Ruan Xinling's expression turned ugly. There is no trace of the treasure map. Where can we find it? I've already arranged for people to inquire about it, but there's no news, Luo Lisan said. Chapter 39-31. She even realized the gap between her and Luo Lisan's status. In the past, they could be on equal footing, and she could even vaguely suppress her. After all, she was not from a prestigious family, so she didn't have to pay attention to morality. She was more free and easy and did whatever she wanted. Luo Lisan was different. In her eyes, Luo Lisan was very fake. After this comparison, Wan Xinling couldn't bear to see Nie Yunxing being polite to Luo Lisan. Fool, I'm hungry. Wan Xinling grabbed Nie Yunxing and said, let's get something to eat first. Nie Yunxing didn't find anything wrong with Wan Xinling. He thought she was really hungry, so he agreed. Just when they were at their wits' end, Su Xinyue came and brought them a piece of news. When Su Xinyue appeared, her face was not very good. Nie Yunxing quickly asked if something had happened to the villa. Su Xinyue shook her head, but her pale face was not very convincing. After being repeatedly questioned by several people, she finally opened her mouth. Senior Marshal Brother, everything in the villa is fine, but Su Xinyue thought of Nie Yunxing's safety and gritted her teeth. I accidentally discovered something that may be a big blow to Senior Marshal Brother. She swore that she really didn't mean to eavesdrop. At that time, she was so scared that her legs were weak and her body was stiff. If she made a sound, she felt that her end would definitely not be good. What's the matter? Nie Yunxing couldn't sit still. Su Xinyue paused for a moment, as if a cat was scratching her heart. Senior brother, Master has a treasure map in his hand. Su Xinyue's words were like a sudden surge of turbulent waves on the calm sea, and several people were stunned. Yeah, he has a treasure map in his hand? That treasure map belongs to the Seven Stars sect, Su Xinyue said in one breath. I accidentally overheard the conversation between Master and Master's wife. At that time, Master and Master's wife were quarreling. They said that you are really Master's blood and not D-Waping's. In addition, Masteress also asked Master if it was Master who dared to steal the dark-clothed men's tribute. She asked Master if he thought that you were D-Waping's child. So he used you and risked your life to steal the dark-clothed men's tribute. Master was scolded by his mother. Master admitted it. Master's wife was about to leave in disappointment and was put under house arrest by Master. Su Xinyue finished in one breath. I was almost discovered. Fortunately, there was a mysterious person in white who helped me. She was wearing a veil, so I didn't know who she was. I couldn't see her face clearly, but judging from her figure, dress, and voice, she was a woman. If it weren't for her, I might not have ended up well. Perhaps Master was afraid that the news would be leaked, so he killed the maid by mistress's side. What did you say? Nie Yunxing didn't believe it. Chapter 39-32. Wan Xinling and Su Xinyue nervously supported Nie Yunxing. They were very concerned about his situation. Luo Lisan frowned. Things seemed to be more complicated than she imagined. No, it should be said that things were serious. So, was Nie Yunxing Nie's son? According to Su Xinyue's retelling of the situation, if the other party and Madame Nie didn't lie, Nie Yunxing should be Nie's biological son. In summary, Nie had always misunderstood this matter. He thought that Nie Yunxing wasn't his son, so he schemed later. Nie's last sentence, Nie Yunxing could only be D-Waping's bloodline, which meant that Nie Yunxing should be his son. The first person who robbed the tribute, killed the disciples of Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa, and stole the treasure map was Nie. However, he stole a fake one and was tricked by the Seven Stars sect. Later, during the martial arts convention, he pretended to be Nie Yunxing and really stole the treasure map. During the second martial arts convention, D-Waping suddenly appeared and stopped Nie from being the leader of Wulin. He almost killed him. Fortunately, Nie Yunxing appeared and helped him. Nie seemed to be concerned, but in fact, he didn't care about Nie Yunxing at all. Luo Lisan thought it through. She always felt that Nie was a little strange to Nie Yunxing. Every time he did, it was indeed the concern of a father for his son. However, it was basically just words of concern. There was never any actual action. What did Nye mean when he said that Nye Yunsheng could only be Di Weiping's son? Got it. Luo Lisin remembered that Nye Yunsheng was poisoned by Di Weiping. She didn't know much about the grudge between Nye and Di Weiping, but she had heard some rumors about Drifting Cloud Villa from her father. It was said that Di Weiping had a perverse temperament and had done a lot of wrong things. Even the former manor head was disgusted with him. Whether he was alive or dead was a mystery. Because he never appeared again, many people thought that he was dead. According to what Nye said, Nye Yunsheng could only be Di Weiping's son. Did that mean that he wanted Di Weiping to suffer so much that he wished he was dead? Luo Lisin felt that this was very likely to be the case. She couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Who would have thought that the Flowing Cloud Villa's villa master, Nye, who was called a hero on the surface, was actually a scheming villain? Sure enough, father was right. In this Jianghu, one must never judge a person based on their appearance. Some people looked good on the outside, but they might be as black as charcoal on the inside. Luo Lisin, who had guessed most of the situation, didn't intend to say her guess out loud. If she got involved in this conspiracy, she didn't know what would happen. Father also said that some old foxes in the Jianghu like to leave a trick up their sleeves. For the Luo family in her life, she couldn't get involved in this matter. She couldn't help but look at Ruan Qianling. Look, this was a lesson learned. Fortunately, she had a shrewd father. Although he didn't teach her any tricks, he taught her one thing. Don't get involved in other people's affairs. Young Master Nye, I may have to go. Luo Lisin silently organized her words. I will help you inquire about the location of the other treasure maps. Once there is news, I will send someone to inform you. Nye Yunsheng also came back to his senses. Luo Lisin's sudden departure made him feel a little helpless. Miss Luo, is there something urgent? Luo Lisin nodded. Yes, I received news that my father wants me to go back immediately. She looked a little helpless. Chapter 39-33. If I don't go back, he probably won't recognize me as his daughter. Before Nye Yunsheng could speak, Ruan Qianling interrupted. It's just a walk in the martial arts world. What can happen? He's always threatening to not recognize you. I'm afraid he's a fake father. You're the #1 beauty in the martial arts world, and your martial arts aren't bad. Can't you make your own decisions? Luo Lisin frowned slightly. Her father asking her to go back was just an excuse. She didn't expect Ruan Qianling to have such a reaction, which made her a little stunned. Let's not talk about whether her father said such a thing. Even if he did, it wasn't a serious matter. He just wanted her to go back. In her opinion, Ruan Qianling's reaction was a little too extreme. If she really didn't have a good relationship with her father, after listening to Ruan Qianling's words, she might really be instigated and not want to go back. From then on, her relationship with her family would get worse. I've been out for a long time this time. It's normal for my father to be worried. Luo Lisin said. In addition, I also want to go back and spend more time with him so that he won't worry. Ruan Qianling pursed her lips and didn't speak. In her opinion, this Luo Lisin couldn't make her own decisions. Maybe when she went back this time, her father would arrange a marriage for Luo Lisin and marry her off. At that time, she would see if the other party would be anxious. In Ruan Qianling's heart, Master Luo's behavior was similar to that of the Falling Flower Palace. They were both very abominable and always used their own reasons to stop them from doing things. The difference was that she resisted. Now that she was free, she would never be manipulated by them. However, Luo Lisin didn't dare to resist and could only obediently go back and accept the arrangement of fate. So what if she was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world and the eldest daughter of the Luo family? She still couldn't control her own life. Nye Yunsheng really wanted Luo Lisin to stay, but unfortunately, he didn't have any position to speak. Now that his poison had not been cured, Ling Er's martial arts had been destroyed, and she had encountered the mystery of her birth, he couldn't cope with all these things. With Luo Lisin around, no matter where they went, at least some of the people in the martial arts world wouldn't dare to provoke them. Once Luo Lisin left, those people wouldn't be easy to deal with. If she wanted to go back to see her father, he couldn't stop her, right? There was no reason at all. Luo Lisin bid farewell to the few of them and turned around to board the carriage. According to her usual temperament, She might have reminded them to look for her if they needed anything. Right now, this Nye Yunsheng was a hot potato. Anyone who touched him would definitely get hurt. Forget it. Forget it. He was not the only good-looking person among the outstanding talents of the martial arts world. It was better for her to go back and immerse herself in it for a while. She would come out to take a look after the matters in the Jianghu were settled. Young miss, why are you in such a hurry? When did Master send a letter? Luo Lisin shushed her and said in a low voice, the underworld has been a bit chaotic recently, so I wanted to go home to avoid it. My father said that if we encounter a crisis that we can't solve, as a businessman, the best thing to do is to save money. The maidservant sitting next to Luo Lisin widened her eyes. How could this match? What a good way to break even. Then young Master Nye and young Miss won't follow us? There doesn't seem to be any progress on the poison in the western regions. I've been busy all this time and have helped him a lot. I've done my best and have fallen in love with him. I guess the heavens think that we're not suitable for each other, so let's forget about it. Your young miss is just a mere mortal. How can I go against the heavens and change my fate? It's a pity, but it's also fate. Chapter 39-34. Luo Lisin said seriously, go back and rest first. There are many outstanding martial artists every year. If this one doesn't work, change to another one. The maid was speechless. No wonder the master said that he couldn't arrange a marriage for her. He was probably afraid of making enemies. How many people had she changed? She was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world. Why did all of them fail halfway? In the future, when Nye Yunsheng sends me a message, pretend that you don't see it. Luo Lisin ordered. Miss, is this okay? What's wrong with it? I'm not a goddess. If he comes looking for trouble, it will implicate the Luo family. The main thing is that I've been working hard for so many days. Not only does he care about Ruan Qianling, but he also pretends to deal with me. God can't stand it anymore and decides that we are not fated to be together. Miss, you didn't say that before. You said that young Master Nye is good in every way. The maid couldn't help but refute. How could she change so quickly? It's hard to change a person's mind. I've already changed my mind. Okay? Luo Lisin said and closed her eyes. She didn't want the stupid maid to speak. There were many outstanding martial artists every year. If this one didn't work, there would be another one. It wouldn't affect anything. It was like wanting to eat buns today, pancakes tomorrow, and porridge the day after. Miss Tang, is there a problem with them? Tangwa went down the mountain this time because she remembered something in the plot. Originally, Nyehi's conspiracy wouldn't be exposed so early, but she didn't want to drag it out. After going down the mountain, she only did one thing, which was to save Su Xinyue, who was killed by Nyehi in the plot. In the plot, Nyehi disguised himself as Nye Yunsheng and killed Su Xinyue. However, in the plot, Ruan Qianling helped and gave Nye Yunsheng 2 treasures, so he could still do it. In addition, Di Weiping was schemed against by Nyehi. He thought that Nye Yunsheng was his blood and secretly helped him. Now that Tangwa came down from the mountain, the first thing she did was to save Su Xinyue. She watched Su Xinyue come to Nye Yunsheng with her own eyes and told him the truth, which added fuel to the fire. Unexpectedly, Lu Qijian found her again. His nose was as sharp as a dog's. He discovered her whereabouts within 2 days of going down the mountain. Lu Qijian watched the whole process of Tang was saving Su Xinyue. One was doing his own thing, while the other remained silent. Needless to say, they had quite a tacit understanding. No problem. I was just bored and wanted to watch a show. Hearing this, Lu Qijian's eyes lit up. So Miss Tang is bored. Why don't we have a sword fight? It won't be boring then. Tangwa looked up and glanced at Lu Qijian. Are you going to spend your whole life with a sword? Lu Qijian subconsciously wanted to say, of course. Chapter 39-35. In Jianghu, everyone had a different aura. The more powerful a person was, the more obvious their aura would be in the air. As long as he wanted to, as long as this person walked in Jianghu, he could track their aura and find their location, unless they disappeared. He liked to wander in Jianghu when he had nothing to do. Didn't something happen in Falling Flower Palace some time ago? He just wanted to wander around Falling Flower Palace and see if he could meet the masters there. Tangua's aura appeared at the foot of the mountain on every floor of Falling Flower Palace. This aura was divided into two directions. One was towards Falling Flower Palace, and the other was towards another direction. According to the intensity of the aura, he thought Tangua should have gone in the other direction. He didn't expect Tangua to go to Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. He felt that Tangua wanted to do something, so he hid in the dark. Tangua found him. They looked at each other and didn't say anything. Later, he heard Nya He and Madame Nya quarreling. There was also a little girl eavesdropping. He recognized the girl. She was Su Xinyue, a disciple of the mountain villa. After they finished quarreling, Nya He became angry out of humiliation. He knocked Madame Nya out and then killed her personal maid. Su Xinyue, who was hiding in the dark, was so scared that her legs turned to jelly and her breathing became unstable. At this time, he saw Miss Tang land lightly beside Su Xinyue and cover her mouth. After Nya He left, she took her away from the mountain villa. He didn't show up until Su Xinyue left. He wasn't curious enough to ask why. What happened in Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa had nothing to do with him. There were many grievances in Jianghu. If it didn't have anything to do with him, he couldn't care less. After hearing Lu Qijian's words, Tangua was lost in thought. It turned out that Lu Qijian had a dog's nose. No wonder he found her so accurately. So, he should know that she came down from Falling Flower Palace. Aren't you curious why I came down from Falling Flower Palace? Lu Qijian shook his head. What does this have to do with a sword competition? When this show is over, I will have a sword competition with you. Lu Qijian was pleasantly surprised by Tangua's sudden words. His expression was still the same, but his eyes were burning. He could feel that his sword was throbbing. He could understand that kind of impatience. Really? Really? Tangua revealed a meaningful look. So that you won't be able to find me once I go down the mountain. After Luo Lisan left, Wan Xinling and Nye Yunxing fell into a passive situation. As for Su Xinyue, she didn't dare to go to the Floating Cloud Mountain Villa at all. She only felt that Nye He was too terrifying. She couldn't forget the scene of Nye He killing Madame Nye's personal maid with her own eyes. If it wasn't for the mysterious woman, she might have died in Nye He's hands. In her heart, her master was clearly a hero. How could he become like that? Senior martial brother, what should we do now? Su Xinyue was out of her wits and completely lost the ability to think. Regardless of whether Nye He was Nye Yunxing's father or not, at least Madame Nye was his mother. Nye He couldn't sit idly by and ignore this matter. Wan Xinling suddenly said, "How about we make a bet? Didn't you say that Nye He has a treasure map? If our Floating Cloud Mountain Villa can get the treasure map, the fool can be saved." Su Xinyue quickly shook her head. Master's martial arts are so strong. Now that senior martial brother is poisoned and can't use internal energy, it's impossible to snatch the treasure map from him. Chapter 39-36. Who said we're going to fight head-on? We can outsmart him. As long as one person is willing to help us, we'll be halfway to success. Wan Xinling's eyes sparkled as if they contained endless wisdom. The most important thing now is to get the treasure map and send Fool to the Spirit Potion Valley to be detoxified. With Fool's martial arts skills, he'll have no problem dealing with Nye He. It'll depend on whether Madame Nye will cooperate or not. Nye He didn't kill Madame Nye directly, which meant he was still afraid or didn't want to kill Madame Nye. Someone who had been by his side for many years must know something. Wan Xinling was very confident that she could convince Madame Nye. Su Xinyue didn't want to go back. She felt that her legs would tremble when she saw Nye He. I really don't dare to go back. When I see Master, I'll remember the previous scene. I'll definitely be exposed. Wan Xinling was a bit annoyed with the timid Su Xinyue. She couldn't do anything and only caused a lot of trouble. Where did her previous arrogance go? She didn't force her. How about this? If you don't show up at Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa, I'll help you disguise yourself and you'll meet us outside. Okay, that's not a problem. Su Xinyue really wanted to help Nye Yunxing. After all, she was engaged to him and grew up with him. Senior brother didn't like her and only had eyes for Wan Xinling. She felt very uncomfortable. Sometimes, Wan Xinling really convinced her. If it were her, she really wouldn't have thought of such a bold plan. This was the only way to save Zhixiong. After the plan was decided, the three set off. On the other side, Di Weiping found a place that sold information. He handed the letter to the other party and asked the other party to leak the contents of the letter. Why did he do that? He just wanted to confuse Niehi. If Niehi wanted to be cuckolded so much, then he'd let him be. A few months ago, he went to find his little junior sister. Little junior sister scolded him the moment she saw him, and even asked him to give Nie Yunxing the antidote. He didn't see the slightest bit of concern in her eyes. She kept emphasizing that the grudges of the previous generation should not be placed on the next generation. He had never intended to cause trouble for Nie Yunxing. In the beginning, he had targeted Niehi. Nie Yunxing had volunteered to help Niehi. Why should he be merciful to those who stood in his way of revenge? He didn't have any antidote. The poison from the western regions was something he had obtained by chance. As far as he was concerned, as long as the Spirit Potion Valley didn't help Nie Yunxing was doomed. His other feelings for his junior sister were long gone. Over the past 10 years, he had repeatedly recalled that he and little junior sister did indeed have true feelings for each other. But those feelings had already gone with the wind. When he became a cripple, their feelings were obliterated. He wasn't a fool. Back then, after he got into trouble, little junior sister had turned around and chosen Niehi. His heart was as clear as a mirror. Wasn't it just because she saw that he was a bad guy and became a cripple? Perhaps on the day he left, little junior sister still had him in her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't have begged Niehi to spare his life. Niehi spared his life for 2 reasons. First, he didn't want little junior sister to be enraged. Second, he wanted to humiliate him. Third, he didn't want his master to think that he was a cruel man. His master had given him to Niehi so that he could spare his life. If his master took action, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. Because of their past relationship, after he recovered his martial arts, he didn't trouble Nie Yunxing. Chapter 39-37. For the sake of little junior sister, this matter was this matter. Whoever was his enemy, he would kill them. If someone tried to stop him, he wasn't a kind person and wouldn't be merciful. Let's not talk about the past. Now, he spread the news to disturb the whole martial arts world. Next, he would sit and watch the conflict between Nie Yunxing and Niehi. Niehi wanted to use him. Dream on. He wasn't that stupid. No, if it weren't for Miss Tang and young Master Lu, he might have fallen into Niehi's trap. Thinking of this, Di Weiping felt cold sweat on his back. When little junior sister begged him to shake hands with Niehi and forget about the hatred, he was destined to have no one in this world that he cared about. Like before, he wouldn't take the initiative to cause trouble for people related to Niehi. However, if they did, he wouldn't be polite. As for little junior sister, he wouldn't have her in the future. Di Weiping, a person who had no relatives or friends in this world. Di Weiping sat in a tea shop and listened to the divinations about Niehi and Nie Yunxing. He even met Tanghua and Lu Qijian. What a coincidence. Miss Tang, young Master Lu. Di Weiping immediately greeted them and told them about his experiences these days. Tanghua also shared the news she got. She said that Nie Yunxing took Erwan chilling back to the villa. They probably wanted to snatch the treasure map. Hearing about the treasure map, Di Weiping slightly narrowed his eyes. Miss Tang, I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Tanghua looked at Di Weiping meaningfully. When he was far away, Lu Qijian said, You did that on purpose? Yes, he'll be happy to participate in this game. An unrestrained Di Weiping won't die so easily. Lu Qijian nodded. Even if he's dying, if you don't want him to die, I can help you throw him to the Spirit Potion Valley. It was just to save a patient. The people of the Spirit Potion Valley were so bored every day. It was good to find something for them to do. Tanghua estimated the time. The side effects of Nie Yunxing practicing the embroidery art should be showing up soon. At this time, the rumor that he had been cuckolded and that Nie Yunxing was not his biological son was spreading in Jianghu. Is this true? I heard that before Madame Nie married Villa Head Nie, she was indeed engaged to Di Weiping. It said that the two of them were childhood sweethearts and were only one step away from marriage. Unfortunately, Di Weiping had a bad temperament and made a big mistake. In the end, he was expelled from the villa. If Nye Yunxing is really Di Weiping's son, then wouldn't the father and son kill each other? While the people of Jianghu were discussing this heatedly, Di Weiping followed Nye Yunsheng and the others to the Drifting Cloud Villa. At this time, Nye Yunsheng and Wan Xianling returned to the Drifting Cloud Villa. On the way back, they heard all kinds of rumors. They hurried back and happened to ask Nye he the truth with the rumors in Jianghu. Nye he didn't show any strange expression to the two's arrival. Instead, Nye he felt relieved when he heard the news in Jianghu. Dad, are the rumors in Jianghu true? Nye Yunsheng pretended not to know the news that Su Xinyue passed to him. Seeing Nye he's kind face, his heart sank. Little junior sister wouldn't lie to him. Nye he was so calm as if nothing had happened. There was a big problem. Madame Nye was released. Nye he didn't know what he said to her, but she seemed to know nothing except that she had lost some weight. Chapter 39-38. Madame Nye's personal maidservant, who was always by her side, was indeed gone and replaced with a new face. Why was there a new maidservant all of a sudden? Faced with Nye Yunxing's questions, Nye he only sighed deeply and said, Yunsheng, no matter what you hear, don't let your imagination run wild. No matter what happens, you'll always be my Nye he's son. This is an unchangeable fact. Nye he patted Nye Yunxing's shoulder hard and continued to comfort him. Don't care about what the Jianghu people say. Since you're willing to come back, this villa will always have a place for you. Father is very happy that you're back. Nye he's words were full of hints that Nye Yunxing wasn't his blood. Nye Yunxing almost couldn't hold himself back a few times. He hadn't spent all these years in the Jianghu for nothing. He was no longer the Jianghu newbie who had Drifting Cloud Villa as his backer. Even though he had a lot of doubts and wanted to ask many questions, he didn't continue asking. He came back to search for the treasure map. He probably wouldn't be able to get anything out of Nye he and would even arouse his vigilance. It was better to stay in the villa for now and find a chance to talk to his mother. Nye Yunxing breathed a sigh of relief when he learned that Madame Nye was fine. Yunsheng, go rest. Stay in the villa from now on and don't leave. Nye he persuaded. I've already arranged for people to find a godly doctor. The most important thing right now is to get rid of the poison. Nye he kept Nye Yunxing mostly because the matter had blown up. If he kept Nye Yunxing in the villa, Di Weiping might come looking for him. Nye he didn't know how the news had been leaked. However, it was even more advantageous for him now that the news had been leaked. If Nye Yunxing really wasn't his son, he might feel like he'd lost all face. However, after arguing with Madame Nye last time, he understood that Nye Yunxing was his biological son. It didn't matter what the Jianghu people said. It was good that his son was his biological son, but he still had to get the treasure map. After taking over the villa, he thought that he could ask the old man about the whereabouts of the other treasure maps. At first, that old thing pretended to be muddle-headed and was very stubborn. Now, he was really a little confused. The whereabouts of the 7 Stars Sect's treasure map was obtained from that old thing a few years ago. He already had a treasure map in his hands. Once he dealt with Di Weiping, he would be able to search for other treasure maps with peace of mind. He really didn't expect Di Weiping to be able to make a comeback. Even though he had spared Di Weiping's life back then, after crippling his martial arts, he had gone all out to kill him. It was the Spirit Potion Valley that had helped him recover. People from the Spirit Potion Valley weren't easy to invite. He didn't know what Di Weiping had used to persuade them. After thinking about it, Nye decided that they needed to wait. He knew Di Weiping very well. He would never watch his own son die. If he had something good in his hands, he might even think of giving it to Nye Yunsheng. It seemed that he had to create some obstacles between this father and son and deepen their feelings of going through thick and thin together. Nye Yunsheng didn't know what Nye was thinking, but he understood that the current Nye wasn't the old Nye. He and Wan Xianling didn't show any abnormalities when they lived in the villa. Nye didn't expect them to know some of the truth and still have their own little plans. After living in the villa for about half a month, Nye Yunsheng and Wan Xianling finally found a chance to talk to Madame Nye in private. At first, Madame Nye didn't say anything. The two had no choice but to repeat what Su Xinyue saw. Madame Nye suddenly burst into tears. The treasure map was actually stolen by Niehi. After he accidentally found the treasure map, he secretly hid it somewhere else. The reason why he did this was because the old manor head had annulled the engagement between him and little junior sister, and little junior sister had also listened to the old manor head and given up on him without hesitation. Secondly, it would be even harder to explain if he took it out at that time. Their pledge of eternal love was like a joke. He originally wanted to take out the treasure map, but now he couldn't take it out anymore. He even felt that once he took it out, the old manor head wouldn't hesitate to kill him in order to keep it a secret. Did the old manor head really let he deal with him to give he a chance to go easy on him and spare his life? Not necessarily. He probably wanted to see if he would go look for the treasure map after this matter. He hid the treasure map in a very secret place. After his martial arts were crippled, he wandered all the way to the Great Wall and didn't go back to get it. Chapter 3940. Wei saw what was happening in the villa and remembered that the old manor lord was still alive. He suddenly felt that he could do something. For example, exposing Niehi's true identity to everyone and saving the old manor lord? It was interesting to have the old manor lord personally lead Nie Yunxing to deal with Niehi. However, this couldn't be done too quickly. Nie Yunxing hadn't found the treasure map yet. He had to wait until they found the treasure map and went to save the old manor lord. Wei suppressed the thoughts in his heart and waited in the dark. Nie Yunxing and the others didn't disappoint him. With Madame Nie's help, the treasure map was found. After finding the treasure map, the two found an excuse to bid farewell to Niehi and said that they were going to see a godly doctor. Niehi didn't find anything and let them leave. However, when they were halfway, Niehi discovered that the treasure map was gone. Combined with the recent events, he understood what was going on. Niehi disguised himself as a man in black and chased after Nie Yunxing's carriage. Wei watched Niehi torture the three people in the shadows. Nie Yunxing's condition wasn't too good, and he was beaten half to death by Niehi. Seeing that Niehi was planning to kill Su Xinyue and Ruan Xianling in front of Nie Yunxing, Wei hurriedly made a move. This time, Niehi didn't hold back at all. When he fought with the masked Wei was actually at a disadvantage. Nie Yunxing saw that something was wrong and knew that if that person was defeated, they wouldn't be able to escape. At this juncture, he actually broke through and didn't care whether he used internal energy or not. After breaking through, he joined Wei to deal with Niehi together. In the end, Niehi was beaten into a sorry state. Wei took the chance to cut Niehi several times. Niehi couldn't win and could only run away unwillingly. "Thank you for saving us. May I know your name?" Wei face was covered so Nie Yunxing, and the others couldn't see his face. He didn't answer the others' question. Instead, he tiptoed and flew away. Ruan Xianling looked at Wei back thoughtfully. She felt that she had seen him before. Nie Yunxing's poison had spread again. Because he used internal energy, it had spread to half of his body. The three didn't dare to delay and hurriedly. They took the treasure map to save Nie Yunxing. In fact, Tanghua and Lu Qijian were hiding in the dark. They didn't plan to get involved. They just watched in silence. Lu Qijian shook his head. "The Spirit Potion Valley doesn't care about the treasure map. If you need Nie Yunxing alive, I can write a letter and ask the Spirit Potion Valley to save Nie Yunxing." Tanghua couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Don't you want the treasure map? The treasure map isn't important anymore." Chapter 3941. Because of Lu Qijian's advice, Nie Yunxing took the treasure map and entered the Spirit Potion Valley for treatment. "These treasure maps all belong to me?" Lu Qijian confirmed. "They're all yours. You can use this time to study them. If you want to find the treasure, I can accompany you. As long as you compete with me, all the treasures are yours." "Then I won't be polite." Lu Qijian's eyes seemed to twinkle with starlight. He didn't know why, but when he handed over the treasure map to Tanghua, he felt at ease. It was as if some danger had been solved. "Son, come out." Someone called in a low voice from outside the door. Tanghua and Lu Qijian lifted their heads. A woman's head popped out of the door. She was dressed like a married woman. She looked around 30 years old, which made her look very young. This woman was Lu Qijian's mother. However, her lively appearance didn't make her look like a woman who had a child as big as Lu Qijian. At this moment, another head popped out from above the woman. It was a good-looking man who looked around 30 years old. He was Lu Qijian's father. Behind them stood some young men. They were all tall and handsome. They were all looking around, looking at Lu Qijian with expectation. "You should go." Lu Qijian nodded gently. "If you need anything, just tell the servants. I'll be back soon." As soon as Lu Qijian went out, the group of people pressed him down and carried him away. Although he was a powerful swordsman, he couldn't resist this group of people. "Son, what's your relationship with that girl?" Lu Qijian's mother asked with a mischievous face. She rubbed Lu Qijian's head, her face happy. "Good son, you've learned to find a girl by yourself. You're better than your brothers. She's such a pretty girl. Is she blind? You tricked her to come back." Father Lu rubbed his chin. His eyes were filled with confusion, and his face was full of confusion. "Did you drug her? Or did you force her?" "Little brother, you can actually find a girl? Don't you know that your brothers don't have wives? How can you find a girl first? You can even trick a girl back. Are all the girls in Jianghu that easy to trick?" The one who spoke was Lu Qijian's elder brother. Second brother Lu continued, "Why don't we go out and take a look?" Third brother Lu said, "Father, mother, girls like little brother. We brothers should be able to trick a few of them back. Why don't we try? Little brother already has a girl. As older brothers, we can't always be single, right?" Fourth brother Lu continued, "Look, your son is not young anymore. If he doesn't find a girl while he's still young, no one will want him in the future." The Lu couple was actually a little tempted. If the girls outside were easy to deceive and beautiful, it would be good to let their sons go out and deceive a few. "Madam, I think we can let them go out and take a look. I'm afraid waiting in the valley won't work." That's right. The reason why these sons didn't have wives was because they felt that fate had come. They would definitely find one, so they just needed to wait in the valley. However, he didn't expect that his youngest son would return with a beautiful young lady. "Okay, let's make it clear first. You can only use your mouth to coax the girl back. You're not allowed to use any other methods." Madame Lu compromised. She grabbed Lu Qijian's arm. "Darling son, if you have time during this period, teach your brothers more. Let them learn how to get a wife." Chapter 3942. Little brother, do you mean that if you like a girl, you should compete with her? Big brother Lu frowned. "But I'm good at swordsmanship. Can I use poison? I'm good at poison." "Other than swordsmanship, is there any other way?" Second brother Lu frowned. "I'm good at saving people. Can I compete with a girl in curing diseases?" Third brother Lu said, "I can compete with a girl in swordsmanship. My swordsmanship isn't as good as yours, but everyone says I'm pretty." Fourth brother Lu said, "How about I go and compete with a girl? Maybe she'll be impressed by my good looks and be willing to be my wife." Big brother Lu laughed. "We have our own strengths. Why don't we use our strengths to find a girl we like and compete with her? If we win, she'll be willing to come back." Lu Qijian, who was in the corner, didn't say anything as he watched his four brothers discuss. He wondered how many sisters-in-law his brothers could trick, but he always thought it wasn't easy to get a sisters-in-law. He thought his brother's method was easy to be beaten. After all, not everyone was like Miss Tang. Besides, Miss Tang's swordsmanship was exquisite. He wasn't sure he could win. No, the relationship between him and Miss Tang seemed to be misunderstood by his family. Lu Qijian wasn't the kind of person who liked to explain. The Lu family was different from ordinary people. Even if he explained, they would misunderstand. "Okay, let's go and see Nye Yunsheng. After we cure him, we'll go and find a wife," Big brother Lu said. The brothers hurried out. Lu Qijian went to look for Tanghua with a confused expression. Seeing that she was studying the treasure, he quietly sat on the side and didn't say anything. From time to time, he would refill her tea. People in the Spirit Potion Valley were all capable people. With the help of the Lu brothers, Nye Yunsheng's poison was cured in half a month. Nye Yunsheng was very happy that he got his life back, but he didn't mention leaving. It wasn't easy to come to the Spirit Potion Valley. He wanted to stay a little longer and make friends with the people there. The people of the Spirit Potion Valley weren't easy to get along with. They all had bad tempers. Luckily, they had the treasure map to entice them. Nie Yunsheng was thinking about how to make friends with the people of the Spirit Potion Valley so that they would see him in a new light. However, as soon as he had this thought, he was mercilessly thrown out by the Liu brothers. Bah, so you're an old scoundrel. Get out of here now that you've recovered. Don't you need money to eat in the Elixir Valley? He doesn't look like a good person. From the very beginning, I felt that there was something wrong with that kid's gaze. I've sent someone to inquire about him. This brat is having a very bad time in the Jianghu. He's probably here to seek refuge and freeload. The Liu brothers cursed and threw away Nie Yunsheng. Then, they turned around and went back, feeling refreshed. They even muttered, "He got off easy. What a loss. I let him freeload a few more meals. If I knew this would happen, I would have beaten him up again." Nie Yunsheng was very angry. Wasn't it just a few meals? The people of the Spirit Potion Valley weren't easy to get along with. Each of them had a strange temperament. Nie Yunsheng wanted to go back, but a white mist rose in front of him. He knew it was the formation. No matter what, he couldn't get in there again. Nie Yunsheng felt regretful and disappointed. However, he didn't have any solution. If he wanted to get in there again, he had to take out something to impress them. Ruan Xinling and Su Xinyue, who were waiting outside, hurried to greet him and ask about the situation. He smelled the fragrance on Ruan Xinling's body and actually felt a little repulsed and disgusted. He no longer felt as restless as before. Nie Yunsheng didn't think too much about it, as there were more important things to do. Su Xinyue's heart ached, but she didn't disturb him. She was so timid that she didn't deserve her senior brother. She didn't even dare to go back to the villa. "Senior brother, why don't we separate? I'm afraid that I can't help much if I go back to the villa. I'll only make trouble for you." "I think so. You can't help much with your current situation," said Ruan Qianling. The stone in Su Xinyue's heart disappeared. Indeed, nothing was important in front of life. "Senior brother, you and Miss Ruan are a match made in heaven. Let's cancel the engagement between us." She just wanted to live well. Chapter 39:44. Su Xinyue thought that no matter how powerful Nie Yunsheng was, he was facing the entire villa and the martial arts world. With Nie Yunsheng and Ruan Qinling's relationship and how many people they had offended, something would happen sooner or later if she stayed with them. Senior brother only had Ruan Qinling in his eyes. If something really happened, he would definitely save Ruan Qinling first. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Forget it. Forget it. Why should she seek death? She might as well conceal her identity and find a safe place to live. Little junior sister, have you really thought it through? Nie Yunsheng was a bit disappointed and didn't want Su Xinyue to leave. Su Xinyue had been running behind him since she was young, so she wasn't used to being separated. Su Xinyue said with a long face, "Senior brother, I'm really scared." She was really scared of death, more scared than ever. Niehe's true colors were too big of a blow to her. Ruan Qinling was happy. Now that Su Xinyue gave up, no one would get in the way of her and Nie Yunsheng. Su Xinyue parted ways with the two. She would never go back to the villa in this lifetime. Nie Yunsheng and Ruan Qinling returned to the villa, planning to secretly rescue Madame Nie. Niehe was already prepared, so their rescue plan failed. "Madame Yunsheng, where are you going?" Niehe knew that Nie Yunsheng had already discovered what he was doing, so he stopped pretending. Madame Nie's betrayal made him furious. When the treasure map disappeared, he really wanted to slap Madame Nie to death, but he controlled himself in the end. If Madame Nie didn't die, Nie Yunsheng would definitely come back. When Madame Nie saw this, she was afraid that Nie Yunsheng would be taken advantage of, so she stretched out her arms in front of Nie Yunsheng and shouted, "Yunsheng, hurry up and leave. Go somewhere else and don't come back." At this time, if it was father, he would definitely let Yunsheng live well and not implicate him, right? In the dark, Di Weiping was secretly observing everything. He had been following Nie Yunsheng the entire time. Seeing that Madame Nie was still the same, he couldn't help but sigh. In truth, little junior sister was just a bit naive and didn't have much experience in the martial arts world. She was protected too well since she was young, so she was easily deceived, right? At that thought, the bit of resentment he felt toward Madame Nia dissipated. His resentment toward Madame Nia had dissipated, but his hatred for Nia he hadn't decreased at all. Madame Nia's attitude infuriated Nia He. While Nia Yunsheng wasn't paying attention, Nia He grabbed Madame Nia by the neck, his eyes glinting fiercely. "Why did you betray me? Am I not good to you? Senior brother, let Yuncheng go. He really is of your bloodline. I didn't lie to you." Madame Nia's face flushed red. "As long as you let Yuncheng go and stop comparing yourself to him, I'll listen to you from now on." "Nia He, let go of my mother," Nia Yunsheng yelled, his eyes full of worry. Madame Nia was in Nia He's hands, so he didn't dare to do anything and could only worry. Nia He sneered. "Where's the treasure map?" "I already gave it to the Spirit Potion Valley," Nia Yunsheng said. "In order to enter the Spirit Potion Valley, I handed it over." Nia He's face darkened and his eyes narrowed. "It's not impossible to let her go, but you have to use the treasure map in exchange. One treasure map for one person. You should know that Old Thing is still alive, right? As long as you can find 2 treasure maps, I'll let bygones be bygones." Nia Yunsheng's poison was cured, and his martial arts improved rapidly. He was probably on par with Wei-ping now. Instead of getting rid of Nia Yunsheng, it was better to let him find the treasure map. Chapter 39:45. Hiding in the dark, Wei-ping watched the drama in front of him and suddenly felt that he should do something. His resentment toward Madame Nia had disappeared. Seeing her so weak in Nia He's hands, he couldn't bear it. He thought for a while and remembered that this little junior sister had helped him once. This time, he would pay her back with his life. Helping his little junior sister out of trouble and making Nia Yunsheng and his son fight against each other, it didn't seem like a bad thing. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew beside him as if there was something extra. Wei-ping's body stiffened as he turned his head to look. It turned out to be Tanghua and Lu Qijian. The two of them skillfully crouched in a secret place and secretly looked down. Wei-ping's heart was beating like a drum. Why did these 2 people he couldn't afford to offend come here? When he followed Nia Yunsheng, he hid on the side and saw them enter the Spirit Potion Valley with his own eyes. He guessed that they were from the Spirit Potion Valley. No wonder it was easy for them to let him in. Wei-ping gave Tanghua a look as if he was asking, "Why are you 2 here?" Tanghua glanced at Nia Yunsheng and the others and mouthed, "Watching the drama." Wei-ping calculated in his heart and wrote, "Miss Tang, young Master Lu, can you do me a favor? I have a plan." Tanghua, "What is it?" Wei-ping, "Help me get someone out of the secret prison. Since you 2 like to watch the drama, why don't you make the martial arts world chaotic? I want to save my little junior sister, so I have to ask for your help." The old manor lord must hate Nia He a lot. Nia He was cunning, and Nia Yunsheng would suffer a lot in his hands. However, with the old manor lord's help, it would be different. Tanghua agreed. She and Lu Qijian turned around and ran toward the secret prison. Wei-ping muttered in his heart. He hadn't told them where the secret prison was. Looking at Miss Tang and Miss Li, it seemed that they knew the layout of the mountain villa better than he did. Sure enough, these 2 were not to be trifled with. The villa was like their backyard. No wonder they were from the Spirit Potion Valley. They all had strange personalities. On the other side, Nia He and Nia Yunsheng's fight had reached its climax. Nia He had imprisoned Madame Nia, so Nia He could only compromise in the end. Just as Nia Yunsheng agreed, a person suddenly appeared behind Nia He and slapped the back of Nia He's head. Wei-ping thought that it would be nice if he could kill Nia He with a single slap. Of course, this was just a naive thought. As expected, Nia He reacted quickly. He subconsciously let go of his hand and hid to the side. The reason why Nia He was able to dodge so quickly was because he still had a trump card, the old manor lord. It didn't matter whether Madame Nia was in his hands or not. As long as the old manor lord's life was in his hands, Madame Nia couldn't escape. Wei-ping's aggressive slap was just a bluff. After Nye dodged, he grabbed Madame Nye and said in a low voice, "I'll pay you back with my life." Madame Nye's struggling movements also stiffened. She allowed Di Weiping to take her away. "Yunsheng, don't worry about me," Madame Nye suddenly shouted. "He won't hurt me." "Yunsheng, hurry and leave." "Idiot, that person's figure is very familiar. He should be the hero who helped us out last time," Ruan Qianling reminded. Actually, she had already guessed it. She whispered, "I'm afraid it's Di Weiping." As for why Di Weiping intervened in this matter, the two instantly understood. Could it be that he thought Nye Yunsheng was his bloodline? If that's the case, then it's fine. Nye Yunsheng relaxed. He stared into the distance with a cold expression. He gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Di Weiping." Chapter 3946. Linger, let's go. Nye Yunsheng didn't fight with Nye because he was still hesitant. He didn't want father and son to fight. Secondly, he didn't want to repeat what happened to Madame Nye. Right now, Ruan Qianling wasn't a martial arts expert. If she wasn't careful, it would be easy for Nye to take advantage of her. At that time, she would be under his control again. Nye didn't chase after her. He still had a trump card. However, when he returned to the dark prison and found it empty, he trembled with anger. At this moment, Tanghua and Lu Qijian met Di Weiping with a white-haired old man with a dull gaze. When Madame Nye saw the old village head, she burst into tears. "Senior brother, thank you. If it wasn't for you, no need to thank me. I'm just returning your life." Di Weiping waved his hand. "We're even now." He didn't even look at the old village head. "I wonder how Yunsheng is." "Senior brother, can you?" Di Weiping's face was cold. "No, I don't have time. What did the life or death of Nye's son have to do with him? Back then, Nye had stolen the treasure map and framed him. He would never be able to forgive him in this lifetime unless Nye died." Seeing Nye Yunsheng chasing after them, Di Weiping hurriedly called out to Tanghua, "Miss Tang, let's hurry and leave. Thank you for this time." He didn't want these two people he couldn't afford to provoke to get involved and let that brat Nye Yunsheng know that he could take advantage of them. Wishful thinking. Di Weiping treated Tanghua and Lu Qijian to a meal and happily drank a jar of wine. He said, "This is the first time I've ignored my junior sister's request. In the past, no matter what she said, he would listen to her." Sure enough, he didn't have her in his heart anymore. After listening to Di Weiping's nonsense, the two sides bid farewell. Everything had been sped up, and many people's endings had been changed. Tanghua felt that there was nothing left to do. "Lu Qijian, didn't you want to have a sword duel?" Lu Qijian asked expectantly now. Tanghua pulled out her sword and nimbly drew a sword flower. "Now, do you want to come? If you don't, we won't compete in the future." "Bye," Lu Qijian quickly replied. Ever since he met Tanghua and sparred with Nye, he had never sparred with anyone else. Lu Qijian was very surprised that he didn't feel anything was missing in the past few years when he hadn't competed with others. "Miss Tang, you can state a condition." Although they were very familiar with each other, Lu Qijian still wanted to go through the process. Anyone who agreed to compete with him in swordsmanship could raise a condition. Of course, it had to be something he could do. Conditions? Are you serious? After getting Lu Qijian's affirmation, Tanghua thought for a while. "Anything? Anything. I remember that you have a set of rules in Jianghu. You can't agree to anything you can't agree to," Tanghua reminded him. "If I state a condition you can't agree to, it will be troublesome. You state it first." Lu Qijian silently thought that Miss Tang wouldn't ask him to do anything heinous. She wasn't that kind of person. In that case, there shouldn't be anything he couldn't agree to. "Do you know my identity?" Before Lu Qijian asked, she continued, "You should have guessed that I'm from the Falling Flower Palace. What I want to tell you is that I'm not only from the Falling Flower Palace, but also the head of the Falling Flower Palace. I'm known as the female devil in Jianghu." Lu Qijian's expression was calm. He wasn't surprised by this result. "Is Miss Tang still surnamed Tang?" "Of course. That's it. Anyway, it's Miss Tang. Identity wasn't important. Then I'll state a condition." "Just state it, Miss Tang." In recent years, The Falling Flower Palace has been training a new palace master. When the new palace master takes over the Falling Flower Palace, I will retire. In other words, I won't be the palace master anymore. Lu Qijian. If Miss Tang has nowhere else to go, you can come to the Spirit Potion Valley. So the palace master of the Falling Flower Palace quit? Did she want to leave the Falling Flower Palace? System. Yes, the desire to live is back. When I retire, I'll lack a companion. I think you're just right. Do you understand? Tangwa smiled. Chapter 39:47. Lu Qijian suddenly thought of his 4 elder brothers who had gone to Jianghu to find their wives. He seemed to have understood something. Miss Tang wanted to be his wife? Was it because he had been working tirelessly by Miss Tang's side that she was moved? To be honest, he had never thought about finding a wife before, unlike his elder brothers who were eager to find a wife. However, if his wife was Miss Tang, he would be more than willing. There was no one better than Miss Tang. What do you mean, Miss Tang? Tangwa said, I want to find a husband with exquisite swordsmanship. Who do you think has the best swordsmanship in Jianghu except for me? Me. Lu Qijian said without hesitation. In the whole Jianghu, he really couldn't find anyone who had better swordsmanship than him except for Miss Tang. After answering, he felt that something was wrong. He saw Tangwa looking at him with a smile, as if she was saying, Do you understand? Which made him stunned. My condition is to find a husband with the best swordsmanship. Can you do it? If there is someone who has better swordsmanship than you, that's fine too. System. Host. If there really is someone who has better swordsmanship than Lu Qijian, you've made a big joke. Tangwa said, I have countless swordsmanship manuals. Lu Qijian is a genius. If I just give him 2 manuals, I won't be afraid that others will surpass him. System. All right, he understood now. Lu Qijian was the person she wanted to recruit. This was a matter that was set in stone. She had already cheated to this extent, so there was no way she would make a mistake. Lu Qijian fell silent. In Jianghu, was there anyone who had better swordsmanship than him except for Miss Tang? So far, he hadn't found anyone, and he always hoped that there was no such person. He raised his head and looked into Tangwa's eyes. Miss Tang, I don't think there is anyone who has better swordsmanship than me except for you. I agree to your condition. Will your parents agree? Lu Qijian replied, yes. In his parents' eyes, Miss Tang was his wife, wasn't she? This condition was really too simple. He felt that he had taken advantage of the situation. Not only did he have a wife, but he could also spar with her at any time in the future and improve together. Tangwa and Lu Qijian found a forest and planned to have a sword duel there. The 2 of them drew their swords and instantly engaged in battle. Their figures could not be seen clearly because they were too fast. He could only vaguely see 2 figures fighting amidst the smoke and dust in front of him, as well as countless shadows of swords and sabers. The whistling of the wind and the clashing of thousands of swords could be heard. In less than half a cup of tea's time, everything seemed to be over. Countless leaves that had been cut down slowly floated to the ground. Billowing smoke and dust also covered the ground. The 2 fighting figures also froze in the forest. When all the smoke and dust had dissipated, the scene of the 2 could be seen clearly. The tip of Tangwa's sword was pressed against Lu Qijian's throat. With just a little bit of force, his neck would be pierced. As for the sword in Lu Qijian's hand, it was in an attacking state. Merely this movement was enough to prove that Lu Qijian had lost the match. Lu Qijian, you lost? I only know. Lu Qijian's eyes were very bright. He did not feel sad about losing at all. On the contrary, he felt very excited. He did not know whether it was because he had finally been defeated or because of other reasons. In short, he had never been so excited since he started practicing swordsmanship. Chapter 39:48. Miss Tang, your swordsmanship is really exquisite. After we get married, can we practice swordsmanship every day? Lu Qijian thought that both the swordsmanship competition and Tangwa's conditions were too good. His wife's swordsmanship was more exquisite than his. Would he need to find someone to practice swordsmanship with in the future? System. Host. This guy doesn't want your body. He wants your swordsmanship. I'm dying of laughter. Tanghua, I think it's a bit unfair. Then, Lu Qijian, just pretend you didn't mention that condition. Tanghua regretted. She shouldn't have mentioned that condition. Look at this idiot. He was so happy that he was almost drooling. Lu Qijian hurried to say, Miss Tang, I'm not a man who doesn't keep his words. I've promised, and I'll do it. Lu Qijian put away his long sword and walked to Tanghua, grabbing her wrist. Let's talk about where you'll live after you retire. Also, we'll go back to the Spirit Potion Valley to prepare for our marriage. He had already agreed to the condition. How could he regret it? Lu Qijian mumbled in his heart. He pulled Tanghua and walked to the Spirit Potion Valley. His wife was so good at swordsmanship. He couldn't find another one in the entire martial arts world. He couldn't miss this chance. System. Haha, what a joke. Lu Qijian was a man who acted quickly. He took Tanghua back to the Spirit Potion Valley that day. Facing the Lu couple's doubtful eyes, Lu Qijian said, Dad, Mom, I lost to Miss Tang in the swordsmanship competition. The Lu couple's eyes brightened when they saw Tanghua. They didn't expect this pretty girl to be so powerful that she could defeat their little boy. Miss Tang said that if I lost, I would marry into her family. Do you have any objections? Lu Qijian's words surprised the Lu couple. Lu Qijian's father almost blurted out, Kid, you're so lucky. Anyway, he didn't see any bit of unwillingness on their faces. When they came back to their senses, the two of them hurriedly nodded. Marrying into the Lu family was a good idea. The Lu family had many sons. It wouldn't be a problem to have a few of them marry into the Lu family. They just needed to leave one to look after the Spirit Potion Valley. He wondered how his other sons were doing after going out to roam the pugilistic world. In any case, the matter between Tanghua and Lu Qijian was settled in a muddle-headed manner. Guo, when are we getting married? Tanghua rubbed her forehead. Lu Qijian, are you in such a hurry to get married because you want my swordsmanship? Although I am craving for Guo's swordsmanship, haven't we already decided? It's Guo who wants me to marry into your family. I feel that you won't be able to find another woman like Guo in the pugilistic world. It's better for us to get married early. Since he was so powerful, what if he was attracted by other swordsmen? It was said that the #1 beauty in the martial arts world, Luo Lisin, was lusting after the rising stars of the martial arts world. Every time a dazzling martial arts rookie rose to prominence, they would not be able to escape Luo Lisin's adoration. Luo Lisin's enthusiasm came and went quickly. He was afraid that Guo would be like Luo Lisin and not want him after a while. After all, his swordsmanship should be full of loopholes in her eyes. However, he would work hard to study swordsmanship. After the previous exchange, he had learned a lot. Next time, he would strive to be able to last 2 minutes in her hands. Seeing Lu Qijian's determined look, Tanghua almost dropped the teacup in her hand. At this moment, she felt that she was the boss in a game, and Lu Qijian was the player who came to farm the boss. This analogy was indeed a little strange. Chapter 39-49. There are still some things in Jianghu that haven't been settled yet. Let's talk about it after I retire. Lu Qijian was a little disappointed. He suddenly felt that his swordsmanship wasn't that great anymore. In front of Tanghua were 3 treasure maps. I've already figured out this map. Lu Qijian, help me find the treasure and bring it back. The two spent about half a month. With the help of the map and the system, they found a treasure. Tanghua divided the treasure into 2 parts. Half of it was moved to the Falling Flower Palace, and the other half was given to Lu Qijian. After the treasure was moved, she arranged for people to restore the mountain where the treasure was hidden to its original state, as if no one had ever been there. She didn't forget that the soul-snatching sect and the soul-departing palace had once destroyed the Falling Flower Palace. She took out 2 treasure maps and made them fall into the hands of the soul-snatching sect and the soul-departing palace. She also deliberately made it known to the Jianghu. Nie Yunsheng and his group found a place to hide. Half a month later, the Manor Lord gradually regained consciousness. At this time, the entire Jianghu was discussing the treasure map. Nie, he wholeheartedly wanted the treasure map, but he didn't expect the soul-snatching sect and the soul-departing palace to get it. He coveted it. Yeah, he didn't have the mood to ask Nye Yunsheng and his group. He just wanted to get the treasure map as soon as possible. Nye, who was greedy, used the same trick again. He pretended to be Nye Yunsheng and killed his way into the soul-snatching sect's territory. He killed everyone he saw. After all, the soul-snatching sect was an evil sect. Even if it was destroyed, the people of Jianghu would only celebrate and say that evil people had their retribution. In just one night, he killed everyone in the soul-snatching sect. He left some people alive so that he could frame Nye Yunsheng. He took the treasure map and left excitedly. In order to avoid trouble, he went to the soul-departing palace at dawn. Although news spread quickly in the Jianghu, the news about the soul-snatching sect only spread overnight. Before the people of the soul-departing palace received the news, Nye, who pretended to be Nye Yunsheng, had already killed his way in. Nye was determined to steal the treasure map. There were 2 treasure maps. He only needed the one in the Elixir Valley to get the treasure map. By the time he escaped, the news of the extermination of the 2 evil sects had already spread like wildfire in the martial arts world. Although there were countless people in the martial arts world who wanted the treasure map, it was simply impossible for them to wipe out the entire sect, let alone whether they could bear to do so. Moreover, the treasure map was stolen by Nye. He's stolen the treasure map. For a moment, all the people in the martial arts world looked at Nye. It must be Nye. Madame Nye's face was cold. Last time, he pretended to be Yun Sheng, killed the 7 Stars sect's disciples, and stole the treasure map. It should be him. The old manor lord's face was filled with hatred. Back then, the treasure map in my hands was most likely stolen by him. In the end, because of his instigation, I thought it was Di Weiping. Evil disciple. Nye, that evil disciple. Can you contact Weiping? The old manor lord asked. Nye is definitely hiding his strength. If he wants to escape, not many people can stop him. If we can find a few more top experts to deal with him, we have a better chance of winning. After listening to the old manor lord's words, Nye and Madame Nye didn't have any hope for Nye. Now that the other party had destroyed 2 sects in a row and even framed Nye Yunsheng for this matter, they did not intend to give Nye any chance. Madame Nye's face was bitter. I'm afraid eldest senior brother was bitterly disappointed. He hasn't appeared since that day. Chapter 3950. The old manor master frowned. How about we ask someone to look for it? With Shier's name, he should be able to help you. In the old manor master's impression, Di Weiping was infatuated with his daughter. He believed that as long as his daughter asked, Di Weiping definitely wouldn't refuse. He had clearly forgotten that he had heartlessly crippled Di Weiping's martial arts and expelled him from the manor. If he didn't want to know where the treasure map was, he wouldn't have spared Di Weiping's life. Unfortunately, Di Weiping didn't show up, so the old manor master's plan fell through. After learning the truth from the old manor master, Madame Nye was also a bit absent-minded. As for Nye, after obtaining the 2 treasure maps, he remembered Nye Yunsheng as an obstacle and launched a martial arts hunt for Nye Yunsheng in the name of the manor. Unexpectedly, Nye Yunsheng's martial arts improved rapidly these days. Even though he was the only one who could fight, he was still able to beat back the people who attacked them. Ruan Xinling tried to practice the secret martial arts book from the Falling Flower Palace. She was clearly a martial arts genius, but for some reason, her progress was slow. She had no choice but to practice her previous martial arts. With Ruan Xinling's current martial arts skills, she could barely be considered second-rate in the martial arts world and could somewhat protect herself. On this day, the few of them experienced another wave of pursuers and found a secluded place to rest for a while. We can't just sit here and wait for death. We must find a way to publicize Nyehi's scheme, Ruan Xinling said. Nyehi disguised himself as you and occasionally killed disciples from other sections. Right now, the entire martial arts world is looking for us. If this continues, we won't be able to move an inch. That's right. We have to expose Nyehi's scheme. They all looked at Nye Yunsheng and frowned at the same time because they discovered that Nye Yunsheng's originally wheat-colored skin had turned white. No, it could even be said that it could be broken by a blow. Indeed, We must expose Niehi. Nie Yunsheng didn't feel the others' gazes. He started to talk about his idea. Why don't we beat them at their own game? Didn't little Ling draw the treasure map of the Spirit Potion Valley? Let's leak this information to Niehi and catch a turtle in a jar. However, Wan Xinling did not immediately agree. She realized that Nie Yunsheng was too strange. When he spoke, his voice was much softer and faintly sharp, especially just now, when Nie Yunsheng unconsciously gestured with his fingers and posture, as if he was imitating a woman. Idiot, what happened to you? Wan Xinling nervously grabbed Nie Yunsheng's wrist. She did not expect to be pushed away by Nie Yunsheng. There was a hint of disgust between his brows. This made Wan Xinling shocked, puzzled, and upset. Chapter 39:51. Even if little Junior's sister was deceived, he didn't want to be involved with her after experiencing so much. After Niehi died, he would leave this place and go to the Yellow Sand Lake. At this point, Tangwa didn't pay attention to it anymore. Tangwa returned to the Falling Flower Palace mainly to prepare for her retirement. She moved half of the treasures to the Falling Flower Palace and left the other half to Lu Qijian. She said that it was a betrothal gift, and Lu Qijian gladly accepted it. Palace Master, do you really not want us anymore? Hearing Tangwa say that she wouldn't be the Palace Master in the future, the members of the Falling Flower Palace, including a little girl who looked about 10 years old, were anxious. Tangwa raised her hand to stop them from talking. Didn't you take good care of the Falling Flower Palace when I wasn't here? You were also very satisfied with young Palace Master's performance. This child is talented. It's only a matter of time before he becomes a top master. Besides, you protectors are also top masters. The Falling Flower Palace is protected by the Chimen Duanjia Formation at the foot of the mountain. The Falling Flower Palace doesn't care about Jianghu matters, so there's no need to worry about people targeting the Falling Flower Palace. Tangwa took off her mask and revealed her true face. If you want to retire in the future, you just need to find a successor. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to open a tea shop at the foot of the mountain and live a different life. If the Falling Flower Palace has any difficulties, just send someone to find me. Qiu Ming and the others widened their eyes and didn't know what to say for a moment. When they saw Tangwa's face again, they fell silent. Wasn't this the mysterious Miss Tang in Jianghu? It turned out that their palace master was such a person. She secretly stirred up trouble behind their backs and even tricked Lu Qijian to be her attendant. The reason why they knew her was that they once searched for the young palace master and traveled all over Jianghu. Naturally, they met Tangwa. I'll stay in the Falling Flower Palace for another month. After I'm done with the things here, I'll resign as the palace master. In the future, you'll assist the new palace master in managing the Falling Flower Palace. No matter how Qiu Ming persuaded her, Tangwa had made up her mind. They had to give up. While Tangwa was arranging the Falling Flower Palace, Lu Qijian was waiting at the foot of the mountain. When he was bored from waiting, he would practice his sword. In the past, he used to think that practicing swordsmanship alone was very interesting, but now, he only felt that it was boring. She didn't know if it was because the sword was no longer fun, or if his heart was no longer on the sword. The people who were originally loitering outside the Falling Flower Palace did not dare to go over to inquire after seeing this. They thought that Lu Qijian was planning to have a sword duel with the Falling Flower Palace master. A month later, Tangwa finished arranging the affairs of the Falling Flower Palace. At this moment, a carrier pigeon flew over. Qiu Ran took the letter from the carrier pigeon and subconsciously handed it to Tangwa. Receiving Tangwa's gaze, she had no choice but to pass the letter to the new palace master so that they could read it together. After reading it, Qiu Ming and the other enforcers were a little stunned. Their faces were full of shock as they said to Tangwa, "Gong. No, old palace master." Before they could finish, Tangwa rolled her eyes at them. Old palace master? She was old? Miss Tang. Niehi is dead. His conspiracy was exposed. It was Nie Yunsheng who united everyone in Jianghu to eradicate him. The one who gave him the fatal blow was the old manor master. He stabbed Niehi in the heart. Perhaps he was too excited. After killing Niehi, The old manor master also died. Xiaoming quickly changed the way she addressed her. The old palace master's eyes were fierce. No matter what, the other party was the old palace master in her heart. So fast? Tanghua was a little surprised. There's another matter. Xiaoming hesitated for a moment before saying, during their dispute, yeah, he severed Ruan Qianling's meridians. Chapter 3952. She may really be disabled, which means she can't practice martial arts in the future. Seeing that Tanghua didn't have any reaction, Xiaoming and the others were not worried anymore. They continued. Nia Yunsheng revived the villa and became the new owner of the Drifting Cloud Villa. He will marry Ruan Qianling soon. In order to thank everyone for helping to eliminate Niehi, Nia Yunsheng decided to take everyone to find the treasure after the wedding and share it with everyone. Speaking of this, Xiaoming and the other guardians' eyes were full of smiles. Fortunately, their old palace master had the foresight to empty the treasure trove early on. When those people found the treasure, they would only see an empty mountain. When Tanghua went down the mountain, Lu Qijian was practicing his sword. Seeing her, his eyes brightened. He quickly put away his sword and ran to her. Yeah, he is dead. Guo'er, can we get married now? Tanghua glanced at him. Why are you in such a hurry? Are you greedy for my swordsmanship? Actually, not all of it. It's just a part of it, a very small part, Lu Qijian said quickly. Swordsmanship is up to fate. The main reason is that I want to get married. Tanghua and Lu Qijian opened a tea shop at the foot of the mountain and hired 2 waiters to help. When they were free, she and Lu Qijian would practice swordsmanship in the backyard. They had a good time. In the Drifting Cloud Villa, Nia Yunsheng and Ruan Qianling were getting married. They invited important figures in the Jianghu, so the wedding day was very lively. This scene seemed to be really peaceful. Next, they would welcome a new life. However, no one knew that on the wedding night, when Ruan Qianling and Nia Yunsheng were intimate, she was slapped away by him and almost got hurt. Yunsheng, I think you're sick. Should we invite people from the Elixir Valley to find the treasure with the condition that they treat your illness? Ruan Qianling wasn't angry. Even though she felt wronged, she thought it was because Nia Yunsheng was sick or was poisoned. You're thinking too much. I'm not sick. Nia Yunsheng refused. Linger, you should sleep early. On the wedding night, Nia Yunsheng left Ruan Qianling and went to another room. From that day on, he had never been close to Ruan Qianling again. Ruan Qianling had always thought that this might be the after effects of being poisoned. She didn't want Nia Yunsheng to continue like this. She had secretly invited many doctors and asked about his situation, but she didn't get an answer. One day, Ruan Qianling entered Nia Yunsheng's room and found women's clothes, undergarments, and rouge. She was shocked and scared and began to observe Nia Yunsheng's whereabouts. It wasn't until he personally saw Nia Yunsheng wearing a woman's dress and applying rouge and face powder to disguise himself as a woman that he almost cried out in shock. She couldn't accept all of this. In her heart, she still thought that Nia Yunsheng was sick, which was why he was acting so strangely. She wanted to treat Nia Yunsheng's illness more urgently. She rushed over and knocked over the rouge and face powder that Nia Yunsheng had carefully prepared for her. Nia Yunsheng, how did you become like this? Let's go and treat your illness, okay? This should be the after effects of being poisoned in the western region. We should go to the Elixir Valley immediately. Why don't we give the treasure map to the Elixir Valley to cure your illness first? She wanted to pull Nia Yunsheng away, but she couldn't. She was rudely thrown out of the room by Nia Yunsheng. Ruan Qianling had used many methods, but she couldn't pull Nia Yunsheng back. What made her even more unbearable was that not long after, some young and handsome men began to appear around Nia Yunsheng. The 2 of them stayed in the room for half a day and didn't come out. She repeatedly explained the preciousness of this treasure map, but that person was very impatient. Seeing that she really could not take out anyone else, he turned around and disappeared into the clouds. Ruan Qianling looked at the clouds in a daze. Suddenly, a cold wind came from behind her. Then, the treasure map in her hand was taken away. She wanted to snatch it back, but it was too late. Linger, you actually drugged me. You're too willful. Ruan Qinling turned around and saw Nie Yunsheng speaking softly. His demeanor was becoming more and more like a woman. For a moment, she did not know where the sadness came from. She broke down and cried. Yunsheng, how did you become like this? I just wanted you to go back to the past. Brother Yunsheng, aren't you well now? A young man walked to Nie Yunsheng. Brother Yunsheng, people everywhere are waiting for you to go treasure hunting together. Let's go. Ruan Qinling had tears in her eyes. She blankly looked at the direction where Nie Yunsheng and the young man had disappeared. She didn't know what to say. Chapter 3954. Everyone in Jianghu had heard about Nie Yunsheng's intimate behavior with the young man. At first, they didn't pay much attention to it. However, when they saw Nie Yunsheng's behavior on the way, they were shocked. On the way to the treasure, Nie Yunsheng was like a daughter wearing a man's belt. She even exchanged flirtatious glances with the young men next to her. Especially when she saw a slightly handsome man in Jianghu, she would stare at him with a very special gaze. Anyone who was looked at by that gaze would feel disgusted. Even though they knew in their hearts that Nie Yunsheng's behavior might be the aftereffects of being poisoned, they still couldn't accept it. Everyone made up their minds that after the treasure was divided, they would have less contact with Nie Yunsheng in the future. Ruan Qinling didn't follow them to the treasure hunt. Nie Yunsheng and the others were too fast, and they were all Jianghu people. To be honest, without any martial arts, she didn't dare to follow them at all. In the past, Ruan Qinling, who could beat her opponents until they were looking for their teeth on the ground with a piece of red silk and was called the Witch of the Falling Flower Palace, had now timidly stepped onto the path of Jianghu. She was scared. Previously, when she took Nie Yunsheng from the mountain villa to the Spirit Medicine Valley, the journey was long and took several days. Along the way, they met many people. There were new faces and familiar faces. Often, when she met those familiar faces, she was very unfamiliar with their gazes. Especially after she left, she heard them whispering to each other. Although she had lost her martial arts, her eyes and ears were still very smart. Those people said, if it weren't for Nie Yunsheng's face, I would really want to argue with her about the past. It's also because Nie Yunsheng is generous and willing to share the treasure with us. Otherwise, I would definitely settle the past with her. I heard that her meridians are broken. No wonder after Nie he was eliminated. She didn't come out to be arrogant. She knows how much she's worth and doesn't dare to come out. As long as she obediently stays in the Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa to take care of her husband and children and doesn't come out to cause trouble, for the sake of the Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa and Nie Yunsheng, we won't take the initiative to look for trouble. Although they didn't talk much, most of the discussion revolved around the mountain villa, Nie Yunsheng, and the treasure trove. In other words, if he didn't have these things to rely on, he would probably encounter all kinds of trouble in the Jianghu. At that time, she was wholeheartedly trying to save Nie Yunsheng. Even when she heard these words, she could only grit her teeth and silently endure it. No matter how sad she was, there was nothing she could do. If his meridians couldn't be broken and he couldn't practice martial arts, then he would be a cripple in this Jianghu. She was still practicing the cultivation technique she had given to Nie Yunsheng. Unfortunately, the effects were minimal and she was in despair. Ruan Qinling sat in a carriage marked with the words, Drifting Cloud Manor. Along the way, she still heard all kinds of gossip. However, she could only sullenly hide in the carriage and not appear. She did not dare to say a word of rebuttal. Qinling, where's Yunsheng? When Ruan Qinling returned to the manor, Madame Nie greeted her and asked about her. Ruan Qinling spoke the truth, which made Madame Nie very disappointed. The people from the Spirit Potion Valley aren't even interested in the treasure map? What should we do? At this time, Ruan Qinling was disappointed, but she still hadn't given up on Nie Yunsheng. Suddenly, she remembered something. Perhaps there's something the people from the Spirit Potion Valley will be interested in. What is it? Madame Nie grabbed Ruan Qinling's hand in surprise. Qinling, what is it? Where can we find it? Hurry and tell us. Chapter 3955. Ruan Qinling thought of Falling Flower Palace. Everyone in the martial arts world knew that Falling Flower Palace had 3 treasures. One was a martial arts secret manual and the Buddha lotus seed that could bring the dead back to life. Of these 2, she got one, and the other was taken by someone else. Then, there was only one left, a divine sword. Ruan Qinling had never seen it before, but that didn't mean she didn't know where it was. She also knew that to go to Falling Flower Palace, one didn't have to go through the place with the Chimenduanjia. Falling Flower Palace also had a secret passage that she had discovered by accident. Going up from this secret passage would lead to the place where the divine sword was. Ruan Qinling had hope again. The Elixir Valley should be tempted by a treasure like the divine sword, right? Hearing Ruan Qinling's words, Madame Nia also hurriedly said that they were lucky, but she hesitated. Then how do we get this divine sword? The meaning of this question was obvious. Ruan Qinling had been expelled from Falling Flower Palace and probably couldn't go up. Even if they knew there was a divine sword, Drifting Cloud Manor couldn't fight their way up, right? They didn't even know if they could win. I know a secret passage to Falling Flower Palace. When I was very young, I saw the divine sword. Joy finally appeared on Madame Nia's face. That's really great. With this divine sword, Yunsheng can be saved. However, even if we know the secret passage, we can't do it with just the 2 of us, nor can anyone else in the manor. Why don't we wait for Yunsheng to come back and discuss it? At that time, you can go with Yunsheng. With Yunsheng's martial arts skills, he can leave after taking the item. Ruan Qinling thought so too, so the 2 settled down for now. Actually, Madame Nia thought that if her eldest senior brother was willing to meet her, she might be able to ask him for help. Unfortunately, he hadn't shown up for a long time. She didn't know that after Niehi died, Di Weiping attended Tanghua and Lu Qijian's wedding and returned to Yellow Sand Lake. Little junior sister was already in the past to him. The martial arts world didn't belong to him anymore. Ruan Qinling and Madame Nia waited and waited. Before Nia Yunsheng returned, they first heard that Nia Yunsheng had a falling out with the entire martial arts world. The manor lord found the treasure. After they went in, they found that there was not even an extra tile, let alone a treasure. Everyone thought that the manor head had secretly taken the treasure for himself and fought with the manor head out of jealousy. Fortunately, manor head's martial arts are superior, so no one can do anything to manor head. None of them were fools. They had been eyeing the drifting Cloud Mountain Villa every day. They had fallen out with Nia Yunsheng only because the treasure was gone, and they wanted to find an excuse to vent. He heard that there was a #1 beauty in the Jianghu, so he decided to go and take a look. It was just that one look, and he was stuck to her. At first glance, he knew that this was not the girl he liked. He didn't expect her to pursue him so relentlessly. Wherever he went, she would follow. Ruan Qinling and Nia Yunsheng should have gone to the Falling Flower Palace. Lu Qijian ignored Lu family's 4th brother. How could his brother's matters be more important than his wife's matters? Besides, his brother was still alive and well here. He wouldn't die. They probably want to go and steal the divine sword. When Ruan Qinling appeared, Tanghua knew the truth of the matter. Don't worry about it. They can't steal it. Not to mention that the divine sword was not in its original place. Even if it was, the protectors of the Falling Flower Palace would be enough to make them suffer. When she retired, she returned the 3 treasures to the Falling Flower Palace and handed them over to the 4 protectors to guard. With their martial arts, Nia Yunsheng was still not their match, even though he had improved quite quickly. However, Ruan Qinling's choice made her feel that she deserved everything that had happened to her. The divine sword was the treasure of the Falling Flower Palace. It shouldn't be something that any random person could obtain, right? The man surnamed Su jumped to the center of the pool and stopped on a wooden stake, sizing up the rusty sword in front of him. He didn't doubt that this sword was a fake at all. There were many treasures out there, but they all had ordinary appearances. Only when they met a fated person would they reveal their true colors. He took a deep breath, grabbed the sword hilt with both hands, and pulled it up with all his might. The man surnamed Su had originally thought that he wouldn't be able to pull it out, or that he would need a lot of strength. But when he felt that he could easily pull it out, he was a bit stunned. Because he used too much strength, he fell backwards. Nye Yunsheng hurriedly jumped over and placed his palm on his back. By this time, the man surnamed Su had already steadied himself. They didn't notice Ruan Qianling's pale face at all. They were all looking at the man surnamed Su's hands. He was holding a broken sword with both hands. Chapter 39:58. They looked at the position where the divine sword had been placed. There was still half of the sword stuck inside. For a moment, the air was quiet. The divine sword is broken? Su said uncertainly. Nye Yunsheng frowned. Since it's a divine sword, how can it be broken? At this point, they looked at Ruan Qianling at the same time. Ruan Qianling was angered by their questioning gazes. She wanted to refute something, but she didn't know what to say. It seems that this trip was in vain. Su sighed. Let's go out. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid that we will attract the attention of the falling flower palace. Just as he finished speaking, there was a rumbling sound around them. It turned out that countless stones had fallen from the direction they came from, blocking the road. Not good, let's go. Nye Yunsheng shouted. Without thinking, he grabbed the man surnamed Su's wrist and pulled him to the door. Unfortunately, they had just arrived when all the gaps were blocked. It's blocked. We have to use internal energy to split it open. Ruan Qianling stood behind the two, watching them use their internal energy to split the stones. The gravel that they had split flew everywhere, splashing her face. She didn't know if she forgot to dodge, but she let the stones hit her face and body as if she didn't feel pain anymore. With tears in her eyes, she looked at Nye Yunsheng without blinking. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the place blocked by the stones could be passed through. Nye Yunsheng and Su walked in front. After 2 steps, the two turned back at the same time. Nye Yunsheng frowned and asked Ruan Qianling, "Why aren't you moving?" "Yunsheng, do you not like me anymore?" Ruan Qianling felt extremely sad. She had always been on guard against the women who admired Nye Yunsheng, thinking that if those women backed off, Nye Yunsheng would be hers. How could she have thought that one day Nye Yunsheng would be close to a man? "Why are you thinking so much? Let's go." Nye Yunsheng obviously didn't want to answer this question. He was actually very conflicted. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He should have liked Ruan Qianling. Why did he want to get close to a man now? He had resisted before, but it seemed to be useless. As long as he met an outstanding young man, he would not be able to control himself. When Ruan Qianling suggested going to the Spirit Potion Valley for treatment, there were actually 2 voices in his heart. The first voice said that he was going to see a doctor. The other voice said that this was the real him. He was not sick. As his martial arts became stronger and stronger, he could no longer control himself. He believed that he must have been born in the wrong body and that his nature should be that of a girl. Ruan Qianling looked at him with sticky eyes, and he felt uncomfortable all over. On the other hand, Brother Su's interaction with him made him feel especially happy. Ruan Qianling didn't get an answer from Nye Yunsheng, so she didn't ask again. She silently followed behind Nye Yunsheng. When the two weren't paying attention, her cold eyes fell on the man surnamed Su's back. The man surnamed Su and Nye Yunsheng were talking and laughing, not noticing this scene at all. When Ruan Qianling and the others came down, they rested for a while in Tangwa's tea shop. After a few sips of tea, they left. At this point, the Jianghu seemed to have calmed down. Nye Yunsheng didn't like to wander around the Jianghu now. His martial arts were strong, but he didn't know how strong he was. Chapter 39:59. Right now, he didn't want to wander the pugilistic world at all. Instead, he liked to be with Su every day. Ruan Qianling hadn't bothered him for a long time, which made him sigh in relief. Madame Nye saw that she couldn't stop this, so she could only give up and stay in the house. There were many new talents in the pugilistic world, But the number one beauty was still Luo Lisin. It was said that these new talents had all been pursued by Luo Lisin, especially the four great young masters of the pugilistic world. They were almost touched by Luo Lisin's little hand. The four great young masters were the four brothers of the Liu family. It was just that these people were either skilled in martial arts or were unparalleled in medicine. Most importantly, they were good-looking and attracted Luo Lisin's attention. Seeing that there was a new dispute in the pugilistic world, something happened in the quiet, drifting cloud villa. "Brother Su, how are you?" Nie Yunsheng looked at Su, who was covered in blood, and his heart ached. He slapped Ruan Xianling twice, but didn't kill her directly. Perhaps it was the only restraint he had in his heart. That voice told him that he couldn't kill Ruan Xianling. The reason he slapped Ruan Xianling was because another voice said that Ruan Xianling deserved to die for harming Brother Su, whom he cared about. Ruan Xianling didn't escape. She thought she would die, but Nie Yunsheng actually didn't kill her. Her desperate heart gave birth to some hope. Could it be that Nie Yunsheng still had her in his heart? She didn't do anything. She just spent a few years immersing herself in it and found an opportunity to drug Su and break his meridians. She didn't show any mercy. She really had enough. She was like a cripple in front of them. "Brother Nie, I'm fine." Su's face was gloomy. "My meridians are broken. I may not be able to practice martial arts." "It's okay. I can protect you." Nie Yunsheng didn't even think about it. Ruan Xianling was so angry that she almost spat out blood. This promise? How laughable. Wasn't that what Nie Yunsheng had said to her before? Laughable, truly laughable. After this time, Nie Yunsheng really protected Su in all aspects. Ruan Xianling saw this and felt that she had been too lenient. She should have killed him with a knife. Not long after, something that Ruan Xianling couldn't accept happened. She saw Su practicing martial arts. The martial arts manual she was practicing was the one she had stolen from the Falling Flower Palace. She rushed in front of Nie Yunsheng and asked why. Nie Yunsheng said, "Brother Su's meridians were broken by you. Since he can practice that secret manual, it's his destiny." Nie Yunsheng was actually very happy, but Ruan Xianling didn't think so. Who did she betray the Falling Flower Palace and steal the martial arts manuals for? Nie Yunsheng actually gave her things to that Su guy so easily. Did he still have her in his eyes? Ruan Xianling regretted it. She had resisted everything. So why did she end up like this? She regretted it. If she hadn't met Nie Yunsheng in the beginning, if she hadn't stolen things from the Falling Flower Palace for Nie Yunsheng, and if she hadn't fallen out with the Falling Flower Palace, would her ending have been like this? All these years, she hadn't had a single good day. Was this what she wanted? Ruan Xianling completely stopped fighting. Every day, she was like a dead person. She didn't think about going anywhere else. After about 3 years like this, she finally thought of going to the garden for a walk. She happened to meet Su and Nie Yunsheng. "Brother Su, can't you stay?" It was Nie Yunsheng's voice. Compared to before, Nie Yunsheng's voice was softer, and his clothes were bolder. His appearance was completely like a girl's. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.